Welcome to Mastering Your World Through Frequencies. In this episode, there's an introduction, an interview, and most importantly, at the end, a group frequency calibration where the frequency work happens and change is catalyzed. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. This is Karen Cheong, and I'm here with a very special guest today. Many of us struggle in our relationships, not just with our intimate partners, our children, family, or friends, but also with ourselves. It can be hard to have fulfilling relationships when we're not really that happy with or comfortable with who we are. Today, I'm speaking with Arancha, who has been on a fast track with frequency work for the past year and a half or so. She's generously sharing her story of her journey so we can learn from her what it's like when someone releases enough of their distortion patterns that they can truly come to love themselves, something that there aren't many role models for in our culture. And after the discussion, we get to the most important part of this episode. The group frequency calibration at the end is where the frequency work happens and where change actually occurs. So be sure to listen to that. Without releasing distortion patterns targeted by the GFC, the change you want will be more difficult to attain because you haven't addressed the root of the issue. So let's get started.
Welcome, Arancha. Thank you so much for being willing to be interviewed on Mastering Your World Through Frequencies. This is super exciting. So thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's exciting to speak to you because you've had a really interesting journey, and you're one of the people who's been accelerating really, really quickly. And so I thought it'd be really fun for people to see what the possibilities are and what your journey was like, just because I feel like it's helpful for people to have context for their own stories.
Sure.
Yeah. So I guess if we could just start by you sharing a little bit about who you are, like where do you live, who are you, what do you do, that type of thing.
Yeah, so I'm just over 50. I have two teenage sons, so the last few years have been mostly spent raising them and making money to sustain the family. Yeah. I live in Northern California in a little town called Half Moon Bay, beautiful little town just south of.
It's really pretty.
Yeah. And I've worn a lot of hats in my life. I started out as an engineer. I was a very technical person, absolutely no interest in anything spiritual. But then life had other plans for me. And since then, it's been a wild journey. I mean, I've done many different things.
So can you share a little bit about what your journey was before frequency work? You don't have to tell us in detail, but just like, what have you explored? What have you done? Like, where has life led you?
So once I realized that there was something called spirit or something beyond the physical and tangible, I'm very curious by nature. So I really dove in, so I read as much as I could. I was pretty wary of joining spiritual groups. There was always something in me that was a little bit reticent about that. So I was very careful. Mm-hmm. But I did join a Gurdjieff group several years ago. That was actually really interesting because they do a lot of work with awareness of the body. So you become extremely present in the body. And now I realize it's actually helped me a lot for frequency work, even though I didn't realize it at the time. And I think that was really the only group I ever joined. They kicked me out after about a year. So that didn't last.
What can I ask? Why they kicked you out? I'm kind of curious now.
I still don't know. I mean, they had these very strict rules about how you paid them, because you have to pay for the meetings that they never explained. They were very hermetic, these people. They basically said, I'm sorry, you can't come back anymore. And I never got any answers.
Oh,
so I really don't know.
That's kind of perfect.
Yeah, it actually worked out.
Awesome.
I tried to join a Sufi group and they also wouldn't have me. So I did end up becoming very close to a man who wrote spiritual books, who became, he was a friend, but he became a de facto spiritual teacher for me. That also ended about, 4 years ago or so. So eventually I learned about past lives, became fascinated with it, realized it has a big impact on my current life. And I discovered this through the work of Brian Weiss. went to a couple of his workshops on the East Coast, and through that I discovered hypnotherapy, which is a much broader field of therapy, and I realized I really liked it. So it's actually what I do today. I spent a year studying it and training for it, and it's what I currently do today as part
That's
of
awesome.
what I'm doing.
That's totally cool. And what led you to seek out frequency work? Like, how did you hear about it? And what, you know, everyone's story about how they found it is kind of unusual, so,
yeah. It was a friend who had studied hypnotherapy with me, and she just told me of a friend who had had fantastic results with Massaggiati.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, let's just try it together. So at the time, he was offering this daily meditations for 21 days a month. And, you know, I wasn't too keen to try something new because I was already trying a whole bunch of things. Therapy. But I quickly saw how incredibly effective it is. I mean, it's just mind blowing. And it was so different to anything I tried before. So it was, you know, it took me maybe a couple of weeks to see how powerful this was. But once I saw it, I was, you know, I dove in head first.
Yeah. And how did you know that it was, like, when you say for me to perceive how powerful it was, what did that mean to you? Like at that moment, like, how did you know that it was effective, for example?
Yeah, it's really interesting because consciously I couldn't quite tell. I mean, like, I would listen to Mass and he wasn't saying anything particularly groundbreaking to me, but somewhere deep inside, something really was responding. There was something about his voice. I just knew he was speaking truth. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just a knowing. It's like, okay, this guy is the real deal. That's the best way I can explain it. There wasn't anything, you know, there wasn't any flag in particular that said, okay, yes, I really want to do this. It was just, okay, this is it.
Totally. And so because you kind of found it through a friend and you actually weren't exactly looking for it, and you weren't really, as you said, you were a little bit reticent to try it. So was it just like out of curiosity? Like, what, were you struggling with anything, or like what compelled you?
Well, I was always seeking a way to improve myself, right? So, for truth. I've always been seeking for truth. Even when I was an engineer, I wanted to do engineering because I wanted to understand how the world worked, right? How things really work. So I was always open to things that would bring me closer to this truth. But you know, it was really just word of mouth, just hearing from my friend that her friend had fantastic results. And that's always very powerful, right? When, you know, you hear somebody, it's not just somebody, you know, marketing themselves.
Yeah.
It's, you know, somebody who's actually benefited from the work.
Oh,
So I think that's really what it was, just word of mouth.
Yeah. So it's just curiosity.
Yeah, curiosity, and the open, you know, attitude of, I want to try something that seems to have really worked.
Mm-hmm. And were you struggling with anything at the time that you were like trying to resolve, or was it just like, working for her might work for me? So meaning, like, what about in your life where you're trying to make, because what you said was she got fantastic results, and I was curious because she was getting such good results. So what were you struggling with, if you don't mind sharing, like in your life?
I was struggling with a lot of things. And in fact, the more I did this work, the more I realized how much I had to struggle with. I wasn't even aware how much I was struggling with. But I would say in general, my biggest difficulty has always been with relationships with other people. I just couldn't quite, you know, I was always looking for more depth, more intimacy in relationship, and I could never quite get there. You know, I always felt my relationships always just stayed at the superficial level, which wasn't very satisfying. But I wasn't very conscious of all the things that were in the way, to be honest. So health-wise, I was, you know, relatively okay, and money-wise, I was relatively okay. Work-wise, also, I would say my biggest challenge was probably relationships. So on a conscious level, I was probably thinking, oh, it would be great to improve relationships.
And what have you found that's changed in relationship? Because that's what you came in with, right? So you came in looking for more depth in relationship, right? And it was sort of like this general thing. You didn't even know, like you said, what it was how much you were struggling. So what is it, how have things changed for you, just in terms of relationship, and what have you discovered about in that journey of exploring?
I mean, I was clueless, basically. I mean, for me, if I had to summarize it quickly, I would say that I understood that the most important relationship is with myself. And the most important thing to do is to not protect, but ensure the integrity of that relationship with your higher self. And that meant really finding my center, really learning to stabilize myself on that center. And especially for me, for somebody like me who was very open and very giving, was to protect my personal space, to set those boundaries clearly and understand that nobody comes in there but myself and my higher self and my connection to source. That was actually a long journey for me to assert that authority over my own space and to keep it clean, to do this sort of spiritual hygienics. That in my case was really necessary because I had a lot of stuff in there. And I would allow a lot of people in, right? So, yes. Because I just have this sense that in order to be a good person, I had to be open and giving and welcoming. And, I had all sorts of hard entanglements that really made it hard to tease all of this stuff out and eventually, keep my space clean and with integrity. So, and then just realizing, which sounds counterintuitive at first, that by protecting that relationship with yourself, which might seem selfish on the surface, is actually the most giving and caring way you can relate to others. So for me, that was a huge change in worldview and in the way I interact with other people. Mm-hmm. It's been enormous. I mean, the change has been beyond my imagining. But I think for me, the biggest battle that I won, if you will, is gaining that self-authority. For me, that was huge. Because I was really I thought I had to give and give and give and give, constantly give.
Yeah. And when you were giving and giving, to you, that meant that a lot of people were in your space and it felt like exhausting. I imagine it felt exhausting, or can you talk a little bit more about what that was like?
It felt exhausting. I mean, I was connected to their problems. So, if they had a problem, I was feeling their problems. There was also a sense of entitlement from others as to what was mine, Mm-hmm. So, this manifested physically in things as obvious as people coming to my house with a shoe mat, or taking over parts of my physical space in a way that wasn't okay, and of course at a deeper level, even more pernicious ways. So yeah, it was a lot of eviction work. And some people weren't happy about it yet, right? But so it meant, also myself being comfortable with my own permanence. Yeah. And an attitude of, no, I'm not going to stand for this. You really have to be. Which I think for women in particular might be more challenging.
Totally.
For the guy.
Yeah. I've also heard you say that in this journey, that really one of the most magnificent things that's happening for you is that you're falling in love with yourself.
Yeah.
You've said that a couple of
times. That's just amazing. I mean, it sounds weird. It's like that Whitney Houston song, learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Yeah. It's true. I mean, it's really crazy. But when you start to realize how magnificent you are and how unique and gorgeous you are, and that everybody else is the same, in their own unique way, is also that way. It's just beautiful. It's like the most beautiful love story. And then, this still hasn't happened for me. I'm still single, but you just know that whoever comes along is just going to see the same thing because you are, radiating that about yourself. And nothing else will do. Right? So it's beautiful when people really get to see their own beauty and really how beautiful and just profoundly wondrous we are, right? In our own unique way. And it's just like, wow.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. And what would you say is the difference between the old you and the new you? I mean, you've kind of talked about that loosely, but if you, what's the, I don't know if you can.
Well, I would say just this sense of, I learned to love myself at a very deep level has been just amazing. It's just like become that love itself. It's, and this brilliance. It's just, and I'm just beginning. I mean, this is just the beginning of this amazing journey for me. But I just feel like life is getting better and better. Where there used to be a lot of problems, now there's more solutions. Where there used to be a lot of friction, things just flow. I'm beginning to see a lot more opportunities. So, for example, I've always dreamt of living by the beach. I wanted to raise my children by the beach, but it just didn't happen when they were little. But now that opportunity is just manifesting. Yeah, I mean, this amazing stuff that, that I've always dreamt about. But I don't know. I'm just so excited about what's ahead, right? I'm morning thinking, wow, what is this cool new day going to bring?
That is awesome.
Without necessarily planning, right? But it's just, I don't know. And I know the world is in chaos and, in turmoil right now. But at the same time, I see like this spring of life. It's like the old is dying, but the new is really just still a baby, but it's so fresh and just vibrant with life and new things. I mean, it's really exciting. I think these are really, really exciting times.
It's a super exciting time.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's kind of like each day is like a gift you're unwrapping, right? And it becomes like, and in moments of like this too, you're just like, holy mackerel, like this is a spectacular moment right here.
It is, yeah. And for me, it reminds me when my babies were really small, and every day it's like, wow, what is this new baby going to do now? It's growing so fast and it's so magical. It's like this, just new life is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
In parallel with this dying off.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what do you feel are 2 or 3 things that have helped you or made the difference for you in accelerating at the rate that you have? Because you really have. I mean, you haven't done frequency work for, that long. Has it been? It's been like 1.5 years for you or something?
Yeah, under a year and a half. Yeah. Well, once I realized this was it, I really, so very dedicated. I mean, I have to say I signed up for every single class session, event, anything I could lay hands on, I signed up. Because I realized this is a unique opportunity. I don't think opportunities like this, well, now I know there will, but at the time I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually happening. It's like, then I found you too. It's like, oh, and she's a woman. And this is like, how can this get any better? I mean, it was just amazing. To me, teachers like Cheong were like, wow, it's a real gift. Priceless. So I was very dedicated. I was very disciplined. So I would say this idea of finding my center, like I really dedicated myself to understanding where my center is. And this has changed over time, but I'm really trying to come back to center. So for me, that was, number one was awareness. So really strengthening that muscle of awareness was, I think, key for me. And the more you strengthen it, the more you become aware. It's a virtuous circle or cycle. It's really wonderful. So awareness was key. I also worked a lot with dreams. I've done that in the past. My dreams have always guided me a lot. So very often I would have dreams, say, before a session with you, and the dream would show me, okay, this is a big distortion. We need to work on it. This is still pending for you. So dreams were important for me. And then I just try to do all sorts of little tricks. Like I have this acronym I use called AAA, which means awareness, accountability, and attitude. So I always try to remind myself. So awareness is number one. That's the basis of everything for me. Accountability is, okay, everything that happens to you is because you're running some program that's bringing that on. So, you're responsible for your own awakening and, take the reins. And the attitude for me was more, keep your eyes on the goal. For me, this is really important. So, every once in a while, when I first started, I wanted to be, I didn't really know what being at a higher level was other than some experiences I had. But I would just always have a goal in mind. It's like, okay, this detox stuff might be hard and whatever, but remember the price, right? So if I kept my eyes on the price, that really helped me, even through the low times. So yeah, I would say just being very aware, remembering I'm accountable without judging myself. And this was hard. It's like, okay. you're accountable. That doesn't mean you cut yourself down. You never do that. If you've done something wrong, you change it. If you haven't, then somebody else is having a problem. And the third was keeping my eyes on the prize. That for me was big.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a huge takeaway. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
People. The AAA people. What is it? Awareness, accountability, attitude. That was great. Yeah. I like that. How do you feel your future will be different now that you've done frequency work?
Right. Well, I can't wait for it to unfold. And to be honest, I'm curious in a general way, but I don't need to know the details. I'm just, it's so beautiful now because my relationship with my children, which is my most important one, has really flourished. And, they're teenage boys. It's not always easy, but it's, it's just a level of connection that's very different. It's really beautiful. With my parents, it's beautiful. I can't wait to make new connections with more people, who do this kind of work, whoever feels called to the work. I just know there's all this stuff out there that I'll be doing or will be happening, and it's just exciting. Just being excited is fabulous enough. Just a few short years ago, I would wake up every morning, and most of the mornings it would be like this dreary feeling of, oh my God, another day, and I have to do this, that, and that, and what is so and so going to do today, and it's so different now. It's just, it doesn't even matter, what happens. It's just wonderful. Every day is just this beautiful gift. And I don't know. It's like that baby. That baby every day is new and exciting and full of life.
Yeah, it's all potential. That's what it becomes. It becomes all potential. Right? What's it going to be? I don't know. That's the magic. I think it's I feel like a lot of people feel like if they know what it's going to be, then they'll be happy. But the thing is, with the frequency work, you realize that, and you kind of drop into this, through work, but you do it, you get into this surrender state where it becomes this wonder, curiosity, awe, right? You're like, that's the excitement, right? It's like a little kid, right? Just like the baby you said, you're just like, what's it going to be? Who knows?
Yeah, the wonder of existence, right? And it's so boundlessly fascinating, right?
Yeah. It's totally cool. Yeah. And so how would you describe frequency work, or like working with me, I guess, or what would you specifically say if you were going to recommend frequency work to others? Just because I think it's harder for people to understand that, so it might be helpful.
Yeah, it's hard to get at first, but it's just absolutely awesome. I mean, I've never experienced anything like this, not even close. I mean, the changes are fast or permanent or at the deepest level. I would just say, if you're looking for yourselves, for who you truly are, this is just, of course, my experience might be limited, but to me, this is the most amazing way and the most efficient way to go about it. And Karen is absolutely awesome. She's just a master. She's amazing. She's so, laser focused and efficient, and you will discover so many things about yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the beautiful. I think your group sessions are incredible. I think really powerful. Your GFCs are amazing. The masterminds that you run are amazing. Your one-on-one sessions, of course, are even fabulous. This is real. This is the real work. This is the stuff that remained hidden, I think, for, centuries, that only very, very, very limited number of initiates and, very select mystery schools would have access to. And even then, I think only, parts of this, that this is now available and that it is explainable in this modern language to anybody who's open to it. To me, is just, it's incredible. It's like the opportunity that, you can't say no to. So I would recommend this to anybody who wants to, to be their best possible self and to really understand who we truly are, to really get to the truth of how this world works and how human beings really are. And who doesn't want that?
That's true. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. And then I guess my final question for you, that was beautiful, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my final question for you is, what are you most grateful for right now?
Everything. I mean, what isn't there to be grateful about? I mean, everything is such a miracle, right? Everything is such a wondrous marvel. I mean, I'm grateful for everything. Of course, I'm incredibly grateful to you and to frequency work and, you know, to mass and to everything. I mean, who knows what's behind what led to this moment, right? I mean, I can't fathom everything, but I'm just grateful for everything. Yeah, for life, for being a human being, for other human beings, for, I can't say. I'm grateful for everything.
That's awesome. That's a fantastic answer. I mean, who doesn't want to be grateful for everything? I mean, come on. It's pretty epic.
Because even the so-called bad things that happened to you, I mean, that led to where you are today.
Exactly.
Everything is just like this, I don't know, this fascinatingly mysterious and at the same time, you know, transparently beautiful thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Arancha, for sharing your
You're so welcome.
glorious magnificence and the beauty that you are. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Thanks.
Great.
Thanks so much.
Helpful. Thank you.
For those of you who are new, we're just about to start the GFC. This is the most important part of this episode because it's where we actually do the frequency work and where change is catalyzed. So I invite you to settle in and get comfortable. You can sit, stand, or lie down, or if you prefer to walk around slowly, you could even do that too. If during the GFC you find that you start falling asleep, even if you didn't feel tired when you started, just let yourself drift off. That just means that the frequencies are really high and it's more efficient for you to be asleep to integrate them. If this happens, it's good to listen to the GFC portion again a few times until you can stay awake for the whole thing. That's how you'll know you've integrated those higher resonating frequencies. Because I'm working on the frequency level, these GFCs are not like regular meditations. And many people find they go into varying degrees of altered state. If you happen to be listening to the audio version of this episode, please definitely do not drive while listening to this. Okay, here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the GFC for truly falling in love with self. So, this is a beginning GFC. The more that you do this work, the more this happens. So what Arancha is experiencing is a result of accumulative work. This GFC is meant to have you start to, depending on where you are, be more at ease with yourself or accept yourself. For those of you who are more experienced and your frequency resonance is higher, this will start to help move you into the direction of not only greater acceptance of self, but falling in love with self. Okay? The work always modulates to where you are in terms of your own frequency resonance because it's given on multiple consciousness levels. All right. So here we go. Bringing your awareness to your body. And as you bring your awareness to your body, becoming aware of the backs of your knees. Just noticing them. What they're touching, even if it's itself, right? So if you're sitting cross-legged, your backs of your knees are folded in. So just notice the compression of the skin against skin. If you're sitting like lotus or cross-legged. If you're in contact with fabric of a piece of furniture or sheets or your clothing, noticing that. The warmth of this area. And when you're ready, bringing your attention to the entire skin, okay, on the entire body. So just being aware of everything from the scalp, the hair coming out of the scalp, all the way down to the soles of your feet, over the entire body. Mm-hmm. Good. And now please become aware of your breath. Noticing it at first without changing it. How is your breath in this moment? You may not have noticed it yet today. Notice if you're judging your breath and if you want to change it. Just noticing your breath. And after a couple of breaths of noticing your breath, allowing your breath to deepen, to expand, to become more full, to drop deeper into your body. Good. Noticing if you can allow your breath to expand not only in your front body, but also in your back body and your side body. So the breath becoming much more round. For those of you who have been doing this for a while, noticing more details, such as the pause between the inhale and the exhale. If there's any place where your breath catches, okay, or if it's a smooth in and out. Just noticing the details of your breath. If your breath can drop as far as it did yesterday, for example. And when you're ready, please notice your surroundings. Noticing all the sounds on my end. It's a lot of bird song today. Noticing all the sounds on your end. Noticing the ones that are closer to you and further away. And really paying attention to the softer, repetitive noises that you don't pay attention to because they become white noise. It could be the sound of a fan in a mechanical device, or the whir of a computer or a fridge. Just noticing. And when you're ready, please noticing the smells around you. Okay, so some of us don't smell very well. If that's the case for you, notice what you can notice and smell. Okay. And if that's not available to you, then notice the taste in your mouth. Okay. For those of you who can smell, noticing the nuance of smell. So there may be smells coming in from, a window that's open, down the hall. There may be smells from a kitchen. Okay, maybe you smell the soap that you used today. Maybe you're aware of your own smell, your own body smell. Whatever it is, just noticing the smells around you. And when you're ready, please blink your eyes open and triangulate. So for those of you who are new, definitely open your eyes. And for those of you who are more experienced and prefer to keep your eyes closed, you can keep your eyes closed, right? You know what to do. So for those of you who are new, you're going to please notice 3 inanimate objects in the space around you. And you're going to notice the distance between that object and you. So for example, if the dresser is 5 foot away from you, you're going to notice the distance between the dresser and you. And then you're going to feel the distance between the dresser and you. And you'll do the same things for objects B and C. And as you do this, your sense of where you are in space will somehow clarify or become more in your awareness. Okay? For those of you who are very habituated to this and have already completed it, bringing your attention to the midpoint of your solar plexus, breathing normally when you arrive there. Good. And now, keeping your attention in that midpoint of the solar plexus, we're going to take a nice deep breath in here together, holding your breath in for a count of 5. And when you're ready, releasing the air at the speed and intensity that you prefer out of your lungs, holding your breath out. Also for a count of 5. And we are waiting not only for you to complete your breath, but for the mastermind to coalesce and become coherent. So for those of you who are new, please note that I'm working on you at the group and subgroup level. And that I often work in silence, especially if I'm working with really high level frequencies. Because if I make physical noise when I'm working with those, it drops the frequency resonance, which does not benefit you. So just know if you don't hear me, I'm still here working on you. I just happen to be working in silence. I also do make physical noise. So if you hear me yawn or hum or exhale sharply, often that is when I'm removing heavier, stickier distortion patterns. Not always, but often. And also, if I say something that really resonates with you, likely it's yours. And if I say something that you really resist, likely that is yours as well. So I invite you to remain open and to explore further. Good. So now that the mastermind has coalesced, please ask yourself the following question to yourself. How can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And again, that question is, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And as you ask yourself that question, please imagine, sense, feel, or become aware of the space at the very center of your body. And as you become aware of this vast space, please imagine or become aware of a brilliance at its very core that you either see or feel. And as you keep your attention on this brilliance, it intensifies out through your cells. Radiating out through your organs, your bones, out through the flesh and the muscles, and radiating out through the pores of your skin, out into the space between your physical body and the outer perimeter of your spirit body, which is a sphere at arm's length all around you. Becoming aware of the brilliance within the sphere. Yeah. And now please become aware of the space all around the sphere. And as you become aware of this infinite space, I'm pulling your frequency resonance up, irrespective of where it began. This is one of the most important things we do together, because how high your frequency resonance is determines everything from what your physical reality looks like, how you perceive it, how much momentum you have on spirit level, how much distortion you can release, and how quickly you integrate. So it pretty much determines everything. If you're not feeling anything or not consciously aware of anything, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's happening at a place beyond the mind. And most of you feeling either stillness or expansion or tingling. Okay. A sense of quiet. For some, even a centeredness and expansion at the same time. Or simply relaxed. Good. Excellent. Bringing your attention, please, to the space between your forehead and the back of your skull. Okay, so that entire space between those 2 points. So the first distortion pattern that we're releasing has to do with, depending on what subgroup you're in. Okay, so for some of you, it's disdain for. Okay, self. For the others of you, it's resistance to self, others discomfort with. Okay, for some of you, it's there's an acceptance of most of self, but not completely. Okay, there's aspects of you that you don't really like, right? For the much smaller percentage of you, ones of you that actually see the beauty of who you are and your brilliance, amplifying that. Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, bring your attention, please, to your heart space and to the front of the throat. Okay, so we're going to release this distortion pattern of low self-worth, non-deserving, okay, of like loving yourself, basically. Right? For some of you in a subgroup, it feels like it's too self-aggrandizing. For others of you, you're so far away from that, it doesn't seem possible, and there's too much disdain, okay, in order to get there. So it really depends on where you are. But we're going to release this low self-worth, non-deserving. Which has to do with seeing the magnificence or the brilliance of who you are. Mm-hmm. Good. Bring your attention, please, to the front of your throat and to where your third eye would be. Okay, so meaning between your brow and your hairline. Okay, in the center of your forehead. Yeah. So a lot of you have many distortions between who you really are and your perception. Okay, so there's a lot of clouded perception of what you truly are. So I'm starting to work on this to give you more clarity. Right? So for some of you have a lot of distortion, so it will take a little while, but you'll start to get more glimpses. okay, of who you truly are. And of course, there's a spectrum, right? So some of you are just beginning for the first time. Others of you much more experienced. There we go. Good. Bringing your attention to your xiphoid process. And about 3 inches or 7 centimeters just beneath it, we're going to clear out your pain body, because your pain body has a memory. If we don't take the couple of seconds that it takes to clear this out, it makes your integration longer and more challenging than it needs to be. Good. This brings us to the end of this session. I look forward to working with you on the next GFC. It's my sincere hope that you benefit profoundly from this series, which is why I spend so much of my time and personal resources creating these as my gift to the world. If the topic of this GFC resonates with you, it's very likely that more work than can be provided in this one GFC is needed to clear or loosen deeply held distortion patterns in areas that are sticky. Because these patterns are like layers of an onion, usually there are multiple layers to individual topics. Depending on how much of a challenge this topic is for you, it may make sense for you to go deeper than what this one session allows. If you feel this is the case for you, please visit sphericalluminosity.com for more targeted support.